The ideas expressed in the following presentations are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of ACI or its committees. Please enjoy the presentations.
The next speaker is Brian Gerber, a senior structural engineer from ICCES in Whittier, California. Brian's discussion will be building code requirements for inspections of adhesive anchors in concrete. Brian?
The topic today is building code requirements for inspections of adhesive anchors in concrete. So today we're going to talk about the building code, the inspection requirements in the building code, and how they apply to adhesive anchors. As far as the building code, we're going to be looking at the International Building Code, which is the most widely used code in the U.S. It's used in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, the Department of Defense, and the State Department. According to Section 110, all work that is inspected requires a building permit, therefore inspection is required. So inspections are an important part of the construction process and will ensure that a building will be safe and durable, like the proverbial brick outhouse. Inspections are important, but not, as the cartoon indicates, not everybody welcomes to have the inspector come out there, but they are necessary. The building official inspects many projects during the day. Some of this work, such as structural work, requires detailed scrutiny, and the building official generally has to make an inspection on 24 hours notice, so they may have many inspections to make during the day, so to spend much time at one project just simply cannot be done. So the code has a provision called special inspection, whereby the owner hires a private inspector to be on the job site on a more direct basis to supplement what the building department might provide as far as inspections. And the special inspections themselves are covered in Section 1704 of the IBC. As part of that section, one of the requirements is that a statement of special inspection be available to outline who's involved with the program, what the project is, and what the special inspector should be doing when they're out there. As far as the special inspection concept itself, there are four main players. The building official, which is interchangeably might refer to the building inspector, the special inspector, which is, of course, a separate party, the contractor, and the registered design professional, which is a term the IBC used for what most of us might refer as the engineer architect. Basically, the inspectors are privately hired. Among other things, they're hired to observe construction, and as such, they don't have the authority to stop work. When they are out there, they have to be able to have the plans to read, to know what the requirements are. They do have the obligation to report nonconforming items when they occur to the contractor for correction, and if they're not corrected, again, the special inspector cannot stop the work, but they would notify the building official and the RDP for further action. They would provide daily reports of their activities and what they did, and whether nonconforming items were observed and how they were resolved. Then at the end of their assignment, they would provide a final report to the code official, the owner, and the RDP. In some cases, if work was resolved to the inspector's satisfaction, he would note that, and the building official will have to decide to take further action. Registered design professional is typically a structural engineer, but could be the architect, and that person's responsible for preparing the plans and specifications for the construction. They may act on the owner's behalf to hire the inspection, and of course would have to respond when necessary when items come up that cannot be corrected at the job site. Next, let's move on to the building contractor. That is, of course, the entity that does the actual construction work, and that's the work that the special inspector would be observing. What would the contractor be doing relative to special inspection? Well, first of all, he has to notify the inspector when his work is ready to be inspected, and he has to provide access to the approved plans. The approved plans are those prepared by approved by the code official as part of the permit, and they generally have to remain on the job site. So the special inspector is not generally allowed to carry those around with him, so they have to remain at the job site. In some cases, the IBC requires where a seismic lateral force system is required, that the contractor provide a statement of responsibility and understand that special care is needed for that construction. Finally, we'll come to the building official, interchangeably referred as the building inspector, the building department, code official, and the authority having jurisdiction. The IBC uses the term building official, so that's what we'll use in this presentation this morning. Mention of special inspector, again, the building official also has to inspect the project. Building official is really the approval authority that has a final say on the special inspection program, and by approving all the documents and the special inspectors themselves, they have to be proven as competent to do the work, and that's up to the building official to make that decision to whether to accept them or not. Again, the building official would be going out and making visits. They review the special inspection reports. They are the only authority that can stop the work if they find that allowing the construction to proceed would create an unsafe condition. They would actually perform the final inspection after all activities on that construction are completed to make a decision whether it's ready to be occupied, and then issue a certificate of occupancy to cover that. So let's move on to topic of this session, that's Anchorage to concrete. Basically, the IBC currently recognizes Anchorage to concrete in sections 1911 and 1912. 1912 covers post-installed expansion anchors which are taken out of ACI 318 Appendix D. Adhesive anchors themselves do not have a reference in either ACI or the IBC currently. And let's get back to the inspection requirements as they exist in the IBC currently. This is an excerpt from Table 1704, particularly on Anchorage to concrete. You'll see in the upper portion that the continuous inspection would be needed for so-called cast-in-place bolts. And continuous inspection would mean the inspector would be out for all activities as shown in the Statement of Special Inspection to make sure the anchor is properly installed. Second row covers anchors in hardened concrete, and those can be periodically inspected, whereby the inspector would go out as dictated by the Statement of Special Inspection, but once that person is satisfied the installer is doing the work properly, need not be there the full time during all installations. These requirements apply to cast-in-place bolts and expansion or mechanical anchors. So what about adhesive anchors? That's what we're here today as part of our topic. Adhesive anchors are considered alternates to the code, and Section 104.11 allows alternate materials provided they're shown to be equivalent to those products that are specified in the code. ICCES is one organization that provides research reports which are also referenced in the code, and the basis under which we issue reports that adhesive anchors in concrete is through an acceptance criteria which lays out the guidelines that would need to be followed as a basis of issuing report, including inspection. And this is a sample of a research report that we produce. We call them evaluation reports, incidentally, but the code term is research report. As far as this inspection requirements for adhesive anchors in AC 308, it's been taken that since the code requires special inspections for cast-in-place mechanical anchors, adhesive anchors also need special inspections. That decision in AC 308 as to what level of special inspection is decided based on installation safety tests, whereby the anchor adhesive system is tested for performance due to a variety of installation conditions, including intensity of hole cleaning, mixing effort, and the condition of holes, be they wet, dry, water-filled, or submerged. If they pass the first level of test, the anchors can be permitted periodic inspections. If they don't pass the first level of test, they can go through some additional testing, and if they pass at that level, they can be subjected to continuous inspections with a proof loading program. Also, for anchors that are installed overhead, continuous inspection would be needed regardless of how the performance tests come out. As far as what the inspector should be aware of, there are, first of all, the periodic inspection schedule should be covered. The components of the adhesive system should be identified. There's a variety of brands of adhesives out there, and Even the manufacturers have different formulations available, so the inspector needs to make sure that the adhesive that's specified on the approved documents is the one that's available on the job site. And that would also go for the steel elements that go into these various grades and materials that would need to be addressed. As mentioned earlier, published instructions are very important to follow in the inspection program, along with additional information in the research reports. The inspector should be making sure the adhesive, once it's identified, has not exceeded its shelf life expiration date, and any parts such as cleaning brushes that are needed for installation, those should be available too. The steel rod type should match the specifications. There's various grades available from mild steel to high strength steel, and also sometimes the anchor might be used for exposed conditions, so a stainless or galvanized coating might be needed. The inspector would have to be familiar with the particular cleaning method. There might be special details for installation depending on where the orientation anchor is, whether it's downward, horizontal, or up overhead. The inspector should also make sure that the anchor is located where the plans say it should be and also once he knows the location in the structure, there are some additional details such as spacing, edge distance, and thickness of the member that needs to be followed. And in some cases, the concrete type, particularly the compressive strength, has to be within a certain range as a condition of drilling the hole. The inspector should make sure that there's data available to prove that. As far as hole preparation, we have to look at the drill bit type, the hole diameter and depth. Once the hole is drilled, there may be damage to the concrete. If the concrete splits or is spalled, well, there's a problem. And the inspector should be notifying the building official and the engineer for remedy if the damage can be repaired, or maybe the anchor has to be relocated. Cleaning method. The inspector should make sure that the proper steps as in the published instructions are followed, such as the sequence of brushing, blowing with compressed air, or using a vacuum if available. Also, the size of the brush is matched to the hole size. And there also may be special installation requirements depending on what the condition of the hole is, as if it's wet, dry, water-filled, or even submerged. As far as the actual placement of the adhesive, once the hole is prepared, there's environmental condition that the instructions may have to be followed. That should be verified by the inspector. If it's a multi-component element, the adhesive mixing effort should make sure that the resulting product meets what's the requirements sometimes by color, uniform color as stated in the instructions. Once the hole is drilled and the adhesive should be placed at the proper level as the instructions say, there may be instruction on how the steel is inserted. It can go straight in or pounded in, such as with a capsule, or maybe spun in as with, say, an epoxy type adhesive. The instruction would have gel time limits where the inspector should make sure that those time limits aren't exceeded when the insert is positioned in the proper place. And generally, the adhesive should fully fill the hole. When attachments are made, that should be done after the full cure time, as shown in the instructions, is passed. Sometimes there is a range on the hole size and the attachment to make sure that there's a proper fit up with the attachment and the anchor insert. Also very important to, if the installer chooses to torque the nuts, sometimes installers like to make an extra effort so that installation is good and tight. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing with adhesive anchors, because what that does is may create a pre-stress that's transferred into the adhesive bond, and that pre-stress could be significant enough to either reduce the capacity or actually even pull the anchor out. So it's very important that the torque limits that are stated in the instructions or the research report are followed and not exceeded. As indicated earlier, I mentioned that under AC 308, a continuous inspection, if that's the level that's chosen, would also require a proof loading program. In some cases, this might be under the special inspector's duty if his employer provides test services, or sometimes an independent test agency might be involved. The engineer or RDP would make a decision on what the schedule would be as shown in their statement of special inspections. For, I guess, efficiency, the proof load program should be grouped such as all the anchors that are similar in their installation and size should be tested as a group. And then they would be tested to the time limit and the load level that the statement of special inspection would indicate. Once the work is done, then the special inspector would issue a final report to the building official, the RDP, and the owner. After that, the building official himself, the representative of the jurisdiction, would make their inspection. If everything is in order, then a certificate of occupancy can be issued and the building could be ready to be put into use. So to summarize, adhesive anchors are very versatile. Once the concrete is set, they can be located in a number of locations. Instructions may vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, so one shouldn't make assumptions because of experience with one type of adhesive system that if they see another one that's going to be installed exactly the same way, they need to be familiar with the building permit specifications and the instructions. To make that happen, of course, having good, complete, and clear documentation is important, and along with good communications to make sure we have, like I said, we have four major players: the building official, the RDP, the contractor, and the special inspector. They all need to work together to make this program work. So that makes my brief introduction on inspection issues with adhesive anchors. So with that, I can take any questions that anyone might have.
Mr. Gerber, from the previous presentation, the special inspection seems to have a pretty positive effect with respect to the adhesive anchors installed, where we saw the California jobs were all installed correctly. Where is the breakdown on the East Coast and outside of the West Coast with respect to special inspection not being performed? Is that an education of building officials, and what is ICC doing on that?
Yeah, I could give you a little bit of history on that. That is a problem, and the predecessor to the IBC with the Uniform Building Code, which had special inspection provisions for many, many years, but that was largely a West Coast code. So once the decision was made in the UBC to have special inspections, it gradually became found to be important, and programs were instituted, and building officials took an active interest in making sure that these programs were followed and qualified inspectors were taking place. In other areas of the U.S. which used other model codes besides the UBC, they never had special inspections until really the IBC came out about 10 years ago. So I think one of the problems is there's a real lag time about when all the players having familiarity for the requirements for special inspection, and then there's a practical problem in that even if those people are knowledgeable on the need for special inspection, who's going to be providing it, because there's no history of having inspections available. So it's I would agree with you. It's going to be a matter of education, and as these things just going to maybe take time.
Is that an ICC activity for the education?
Well, ICC has made that an activity, and I guess our group is there to serve building officials, so we try not to tell them what to do. So it's we encourage them and then make ourselves available, but basically we kind of look at them to make the first move, and then if they're willing to accept our help, then we'll give them 100%.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you're aware of any requirements for the frequency of the proof test and also the percentage of the load relative to the surface load, 120%, or if you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, the question was how often periodic inspections should occur, and when proof testing is needed, what load levels should be followed. As far as the first question on periodic inspection, that's an area where the code does not really give any guidance, so it's going to really be left to the the engineer and the building official ultimately to make a decision on a case-by-case basis. I believe some jurisdictions in California do have enough experience where they've set levels for periodic inspections, but basically there should be an initial inspection so the inspector is comfortable that the installer is fully understanding what they're doing, and then either by time or quantity, the inspector would need to come back periodically to make sure the process is being followed, then make a final inspection. But there's no, I guess, general agreement on that part. Second question was on the proof testing. Again, there's no real requirement. I believe some jurisdictions are looking at 40 to 50% of the ultimate load or percentage of the design load as a guideline for a short term. But again, there's no standard for that requirement right now.